Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joe Pisapia, and it's Friday. You know what that means. It's time to look ahead to the props in the NFL. To help go through them, of course, my boy, the Welsh, and the Undertaker himself, Andrew Erickson. Shout out to everybody who's been with us all season long. And if you're new to the Betting Pros YouTube channel, welcome. It's a wonderful place where dreams come true, and Thursday night football games give you Kirk Cousins going to 500 yards passing last night. And if you watched Thursday night football preview yesterday with myself and Bogman, 3 straight weeks, Joey P, same game parlay special, Mike Evans over and the tutty. That's 3 weeks in a row. We're going strong. Boys, I'm feeling good about week 5. I think we know who some of these teams are, and we know what's lacking in some other teams. I love the props you guys have put together today. It's a great grouping here, and I just want a quick out reminder to everybody too, if you're trying to put some props together and some things that we're not going to talk about today, please use the prop bet cheat sheet. It's an incredible tool over at Betting Pros. It's free to use. You go on there, you click on prop bet cheat sheet over at bettingpros.com/props, and you can see the best lines, the best houses with the best metrics in terms of, is it going to go over or under based on all of our data at Fantasy Pros? And it is just an invaluable tool if you're going to be a successful prop bettor. I use it for this show. I use it for my bets. I use it for the TV show when I put it together every single Sunday over on Sports Grid TV. It's a great tool. I hope you're utilizing it. Again, it's right there on the app, on the Betting Pros app. Go download that bad boy, or just go to bettingpros.com/props and see what I'm talking about. I want to start with you here, Welsh, today, because you're going back to a well of one of my favorite buy low players. You're starting with Garret Wilson, and the number is 54.5. Now, last week we thought it would underperform. It did. Now, I love buying Garret Wilson rest of season, especially with all of the Devontae Adams chatter and all the stuff going on. So let's fly to London and talk about Garret Wilson. Where do you stand on this prop?
Yeah, this is my favorite prop of the week. The only thing that takes me off of it just a tiny bit is they're going to London, and like weird things happen. I remember someone in one of the shows we did, it might have been actually Erickson and I's Discord show that we do over on fantasypros.com/chat on our Discord, and it becomes a podcast on the podcast feed, where they were like, what is your overarching thesis analysis to games that are played overseas? And usually I'm like, I don't know, messy, sometimes unders. So that always makes me like a little bit worried about going with something like this. But, you know, the Garret Wilson comeback is kind of been in our face. And Aaron Rodgers last week really putting a focal point on the offense and them needing to get together and get going. And the way you get going is through Garret Wilson. Well, there's another big positive. The Vikings are giving up the most receiving yards to receivers in the league this year. Unbelievable. Only two teams, they are one of 2 teams giving up over 800 receiving yards that are specifically to wide receivers. And it's actually happening because they're number 1 with 9 less catches than the next team, which again, these are like just ridiculous ability, ridiculous matchup for Garret Wilson when they should be slinging him the ball. We've also seen Wilson get 8 or more targets in 3 of his last 4 games. So this is like just a really low total. I picked on a couple wide receivers. I'm going to get back to the well on one where, you know, the poor performance is putting up low totals here, but there's a great matchup. There's a narrative that speaks to it. And I really, really love this one with Garret Wilson. Projections are all over this number, but it's not like a massive beat. I'll say, you know, between like Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros projections, or you go look over on PFF, they're over the 54.5, but not by a ton. I like this to smash over. I think Garret Wilson is going to get a heavy, heavy dose in this game. Kind of also like Aaron Rodgers over passing yards. So Garret Wilson receiving yards is probably my favorite one. It's the first bet I locked in. And I don't feel confident enough because of last week to ladder. I'm a little gun shy, but if I were laddering, I could maybe peek at Garret Wilson and push it up to 80 or something like that, Joey.
All right, Erickson, your first prop of the week is a wide receiver, and certainly one that has been a little controversial. Perhaps another fantasy buy low guy. I love that we're coming out of the gate hot here with some guys that maybe the market's a little depressed on because the performance hasn't quite been up to expectations. Who is the guy that we're talking about for the San Francisco 49ers?
I am going with wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk, going over 60.5 receiving yards. I've come full circle, or halfway, I should say, because I was kind of off of Aiyuk earlier in the week. Not sure, is he still the same guy? I'm over it. I'm ready. This is Aiyuk smash week. I'm convinced. I want to ladder bet this over 60.5 receiving yards because what does Aiyuk do? He has games where he disappears, which has been the first 4 weeks of the season. He's gone under this number every single week this season. Is this Aiyuk? Is this the new norm where he's just going to have 40 receiving yards? Last week, he almost had 50 receiving yards on 2 catches. He almost got to this number on 2 catches alone. He had 5 targets, a couple incompletions. Look, the Arizona Cardinals, not a great defense, 31st in yards per pass attempt allowed this season. And I actually looked at an interesting split with Aiyuk, just looking at his numbers last year. So most of his big games came at home. Those were where he had his massive spiked week games. So back at home for the 49ers against an inferior defense, I think this is the week that Brandon Aiyuk kind of gets it together. It feels like a vibes-based pick, but last week it was all on the numbers, and the numbers bit back, especially the running backs for me. So I'm going with a more vibes-based pick here with Brandon Aiyuk breaking out of this slump, going over 60.5 receiving yards against the Cardinals.
Ooh, I like the vibes. Let's have a vibe meter. Let's put that on Betting Pros. Like, here's the analysis, but this is 5 vibes. This might be a 2 expectation, but a 5 vibes, guys. I'm in.
It's all about the vibes at the end of the day, baby. That's what it's about. All right, Welsh, let's go back to you. And you've got another wide receiver lined up for week 5 that you've got some feelings about. Let's talk about DJ Moore of the Bears. Certainly, if you watch Caleb Williams, it certainly leaves you dumbfounded at times. Overthrows, underthrows, bad reads. I know it's the learning curve. I get it. It's not always pretty at the beginning of a career, but what do you see ahead for DJ Moore with Caleb Williams in week 5?
You know, this is kind of a little bit of a vibes play too, because this is a revenge narrative that I love. I absolutely love the revenge narrative here for DJ Moore against the Panthers, but also, you know, like with the healthy wide receivers, I think this is what makes it more of a question. You don't often see DJ Moore at 4.5 receptions anymore. This is a usual 5.5. Keenan Allen, Adunze, they maybe put some questions a little bit into this, but this is one that's even hovered between like that minus 130 to minus 115. But 4.5 receptions over for DJ Moore, I love. He's hit this in 3 of the 4 games. If you go and take a look at the Betting Pros page, you can get an analysis of everything they do. He's hit this 3 of the 4, which is awesome. One of the funny things about this too, because I think there's always a battle between reception props and receiving yard props. Which side do I want to go? Moore has also showed us in one game this year, he caught 5 and it was like for nothing yards. And I think they're going to easily get him involved. And some of the underlying stuff has told us why he's so interesting here. 31% first read for this team and 23% design plays for DJ Moore. And that's something what I'm talking about when you saw he had like the 5 catches for like 18 yards or whatever nonsense that it was. You know, they're going to purposely try to do that screenplay, get him the ball, make him do something with his feet. And this is like a middle-line Carolina pass defense, or like, you know, middle of the league as far as yards have given up. But it's a decent matchup for Caleb Williams to be throwing the ball. It has been erratic. There's no doubt about that. But also, I think that's why this team looks to guys like DJ Moore for some of those short line plays, to not have him, you know, running around for 12 seconds and then throwing it 50 yards for big air yards. I don't want to play the yards on this one. I want to play 5 catches for DJ Moore against his old team when he has done this 75% of the time this season. So I really like this reception yard prop for DJ Moore. Vibes, you know, analytics, about a 3, vibes, 5.
There you go. One guy who's not feeling the vibes right now is Davante Adams of the Las Vegas Raiders. He's just not feeling it. So without Davante Adams on the field, Andrew Erickson, is there a beneficiary and maybe a way that we want to bet this? Because in this matchup, Jacoby Myers might be in a tough spot here with one of the elite corners in the NFL. So who could be the beneficiary of the Adams absence?
Yeah, so for me, I love Brock Bowers this week. I think it's Brock Bowers' week for the Las Vegas Raiders, over 43.5 receiving yards. Look, he was the focus for the offense first 2 weeks of the season. The last 2 weeks haven't been nearly as great, but you're taking Davante Adams out. Like you said, Myers is going to get locked up by Patrick Surtain. Trey Tucker will have his opportunities, but Brock Bowers, again, 40-plus yards in 3 of his first 4 games played this season. And last week, 2 for 19 yards. On the first play of the game, he dropped a pass that would have gone for 30 yards. And then the very next play after that, he caught another pass that was taken off the board due to a penalty. So there is a world where Brock Bowers has gone over this number every single week of the season. So I'm buying the dip after a bad game last week where it didn't show up in the box score based on the matchup alone. He's going to get peppered with opportunities. And Brock Bowers, again, this tight end landscape is horrible. he is one of the rare guys that can actually do it in one play because of how good he is with the ball in his hand. So give me Brock Bowers to bounce back here over 43.5 receiving yards against the Denver Broncos.
You know, I wanted to add to this. I actually am kind of shocked. I thought we might get a Trey Tucker one in here because you kind of mentioned him. But I was looking at this because Trey Tucker and Myers were both interesting to me. I believe it's the number one wide receiver up against Denver has just absolutely been shut out. If you go and look at the individual matchups, it's been like the 2 or 3 that if there's been a standout against Denver, it's been that receiver and not the number one, which screamed Jacoby Myers, and kind of wanted to move away because he's big plus money. And it was one of the big props on Betting Pro's cheat sheet. If you guys go check it out as, you know, an algorithm type of play, but it's been that number one wide receiver coverage, which makes it 4.5 because it's the biggest. Jacoby Myers at 4.5 receptions seems like a no brainer, but they get shut out. So I look to Trey Tucker as maybe an interesting one, but the Bowers receiving yard is a total play against that wide receiver not struggling. So I think this is like super good. Five vibes, 100%, and 5 analytics. So this is a perfect match.
Yeah, and to Erickson's point too, I'm going with the yards. Don't go with the receptions when it comes to Bowers because, again, all you need is that 1 or 2 big plays. Whenever you're betting receptions versus yards, always keep that in mind. It's like, you know, you need that one big play to hit the receiving yards prop. Sometimes, you know, game script doesn't always go that way or injuries can happen. You know, you give yourself so much more opportunity to be right when you're betting the yards as opposed to the receptions. Receptions is a difficult needle to thread. Sometimes you've got to really lock in and understand it's got to be like a Cooper Kupp in his prime situation in a great matchup, you know, with Matthew Stafford just peppering him with targets all day long. The next one we're going to get to here, a situation here with the Pittsburgh Steelers playing the Dallas Cowboys without DeMarcus Lawrence, probably without Micah Parsons here. We're still waiting that official word, but it looks like certainly it's very clear what the offense is of the Pittsburgh Steelers here. You hand the ball off to Najee Harris and he runs into the offensive line. Then Justin Fields runs off on his own, makes a couple big plays, and typically just throws the ball to one guy, and that guy is George Pickens. So, Welsh, what do you want to do with Pickens this week?
We're going back to yards. I've only got that one reception prop. It's DJ Moore. We're the heavy receiving yard week this week, and it's George Pickens receiving yards, which is low. I mean, it kind of sits kind of low. You understand it just because of Justin Fields and the passing offense, but going back to Pickens, he has hit this in 3 of his last 4 outings, which the BP page shows us. Projections on BP, he's at 60. Comparing it to PFF, he's at 63. Even last week alone, Pickens over 150 air yards. I believe that was 2nd or 3rd among all wide receivers. And he had an over 60% air yard share. It's just no surprise, or I'm not breaking news or telling anybody anything. George Pickens makes big plays. The question would be, how many opportunities are the Steelers going to give him at the end of the day? But you can kind of throw on Dallas. And if they are playing from behind, they will be throwing more. So this is a low total, under 60 for Pickens in this matchup. Seems phenomenal. You're getting almost a 10, depending which projection system you look at. You're almost getting like a 10-yard cushion between projection and what the number is. I love it. Everything is saying go for it. Smash George Pickens over receiving yards.
On that Pickens page you're talking about over on Betting Pros too, I'm looking not only at him hitting this 3 of the last 4 weeks, but also I'm looking at the alt line for him, which it says 75% chance of this going over here. And as you move the alt line up as well, you can move it all the way up to 81.5 as an alt line. You get a much bigger number on it, and you're still getting a coin flip 50%. So again, these are the little tools over Betting Pros that make a big difference if you're trying to get the most out of maximizing all of your bets. Let's go to another wide receiver. We are wide receiver happy today, and it makes me happy. I love betting wide receiver props. So Jacksonville, over this season. Typically, they really have the Colts number, especially in their own building here. It seems like this is the last ditch effort here, and Evan Ingram back for this game, which I think helps Trevor Lawrence out significantly because it seems like that's the safety blanket that's been missing. No Evan Ingram. Trevor Lawrence looks like he's been kind of a mess in certain spots. But, Erickson, there's another guy in the Jags you want to talk about for week 5. Let's talk about Brian Thomas Jr. and your thoughts on him.
Like the over 50.5 receiving yards for Brian Thomas Jr. Look at the prop bet cheat sheet when it comes to Brian Thomas. What do you see? All green, baby. That's all that he's done so far this year is go over his receiving prop every single game. And the books are starting to adjust. Moved it up to 50.5 yards. Still not high enough. He's a stud. He is the number 1 receiver on the Jacksonville Jaguars. He is a deep threat. He leads all rookies in deep receptions and receiving yards this season. Average depth of route ranks third only behind Xavier Worthy and Marvin Harrison Jr. He's got at least 47 receiving yards in all 4 games this season. And when you look at who or how you beat the Colts, it's not through the slot, it's these perimeter receivers. The 4 most comparable players to Brian Thomas that have faced the Colts this season, 4 straight overs. So I'm not trying to overthink this one. Brian Thomas is good at football. He goes over. The Colts allow receivers to go over. So I'm going over, baby. Let's go.
Shout out to you, Erickson, because you were the, I think, the Pied Piper about Brian Thomas Jr., and I wasn't seeing it. I see it now. It's too late. I don't have enough fantasy shares, but I can certainly make up for it in the wagering space, which is a nice thing to do. Going back to the Cowboys-Steelers game, Welsh, I want to talk about the evolution of the Cowboys backfield because Ezekiel Elliott is indeed dust. If you think otherwise, you just ain't paying attention, and certainly the numbers bear it out too, which means it's Rico Dowdle time. And I'm thinking here there's an opportunity where I think the projections of Vegas haven't quite caught up to maybe where things are trending for this backfield. And I think you very astutely are going to take advantage of that today.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're almost going to sell me on an over, but guess what? I'm not going to be over Welsh. I'm going to be under Welsh. Yeah, maybe you didn't see that. Maybe you were playing that.
I saw Rico Dowdle and I just got excited. Like,
well,
yes,
because I play all overs. I play all overs. So, but no, I will throw those unders in there. So
Welsh didn't learn his lesson from all the unders I took on running backs last week.
No, I didn't. But part of it
that was misery, by the way. But you know,
it's horrible.
The math was good, Erickson. But the results,
the math didn't math here. But also, the runs are not going to run against Pittsburgh. So I don't like the matchup at all. Rico Dowdle can be fine, especially if he's going to get more usage here. But this is not the matchup that I'm looking for him to break out. Dowdle, his rushing yard total right now is at 40.5. This is the most it has been all season long as he got a little bit more run. He has hit this in only 1 of 4 games. That obviously could start to alter and change if Elliott, we think he's dust, but they keep throwing him out there, and they're going to keep throwing him out here this week. We even see some Deuce Vaughn. But the 3 backs against the Pittsburgh Steelers so far this year have hit this number of 40.5. But it took 15 or more carries for all 3 of those backs. 3, and like they'll use like multi-backs and whatever. So of 4 games, 3 backs have gone over 40, 15 or more carries. By the way, Dowdle has not had more than 11 carries in a single game. Pittsburgh Steelers do not give up the rushing yards like this. We do not see volume from Dowdle. They still will split series. So Dowdle might be more efficient and might be more of a fun play, but not over 40 yards rushing against the Pittsburgh Steelers in a split back system for a team that cannot run super well. So I'm going under Dowdle's rushing yards. He can still be effective in the passing game. It's just not going to be a big established running game side. So give me the under on Rico Dowdle rushing yards, astute or not.
I will say this, the only game he's done it is the last game we saw him, which I think the realization of the Cowboys coaching staff is, all right, enough with the Zeke Elliott stuff. It's done. It's over. So you did see him hit that 46. So we went over that number. It was also the highest amount of carries. I think the trend is going in the other direction, and it's starting to go up. I understand it's a tough matchup against the Steelers, but I think from a necessary standpoint here, you're down Brandon Cooks, you're down a little bit here, you're missing some defensive players. I think establishing a run game is very important, whether it's successful or not. I would even look for maybe if you can find the total yards between receiving and rushing for him. That might be an interesting way to go to, because I do think you're going to see him get involved in this offense. So Welsh and I are on the other side of that one. In terms of unders, certainly, we can't have a show without the Undertaker having an under. So far, Andrew Erickson, 3 of 3 overs. We just can't have that. So give me something else.
We need to have an all over show for Erickson and me an all under show.
No. You can't go all over for the Undertaker. You can't do it. Sacrilege.
Be fun.
No, that would take me way out of character. I wouldn't be able to do the
no
show.
Good vibes.
Low vibes.
No good vibes. No good vibes either in Cincinnati in this backfield. Last week, it was great. Zack Moss scoring touchdowns, Chase Brown scoring touchdowns, 15 carries apiece. It was against the Carolina Panthers, one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. Not the case here with Cincinnati taking on the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm going under on Zack Moss rushing yards at 41.5. Cincinnati, at least my read on this game, is Cincinnati's just going to throw and throw and throw, because they need to score points, because they got to do whatever it takes to take Derrick Henry off the field, because he's going to destroy that Bengals defense.
Yes,
so I fear for those guys, praying for them. We'll see if they come out. We'll see. But for me, Zack Moss, look, we saw the backfield split a little bit more. Chase Brown was a little bit more involved. And the Ravens, again, talking about how good the Steelers run defense is, the Ravens are first in fewest rushing yards allowed per game at 57.8. So this Ravens offense plays ball control. It doesn't give the other team a lot of opportunities. And I don't think the Bengals are going to mess around with, let's try to establish the run. No, just score points. Because if you fall behind, you're screwed. Because they're just going to feed Derrick Henry. And you're not going to be able to stop him. So I think the Bengals, how they're going to try to win this game is to put the Ravens in a position where they're trailing, which I think means more passing and less rushing. So I'm going to go with the under on Zack Moss, 41.5 rushing yards.
All right, let's go back to you, Welsh, to close things out for the prop picks, and then we'll get to the touchdown calls for the week ahead. Tyreek Hill, somebody that certainly is a divisive asset right now. People are jumping ship everywhere. I'm buying everywhere personally. I think there's opportunities. So 47.5 is the number. Look, this is one big play for Tyreek Hill. The question is, can he get it against the Patriots?
Don't tell me. Don't listen to me. Close your eyes. Plug your ears. Just don't listen. I'm still buying. My take from last week, I'm still going in. Don't tail it. But I have to keep going with Tyreek Hill. Did you know last week, Tyreek Hill and all that mess still had 127 air yards. ADOT still over 18 and a 31% target share. But it was gross. It was gross. And the thing I've been talking about all week was the logic of where I wanted to buy and what could happen with Tyreek Hill. It was all there. Screen passes, runs, deep play. Tyler Huntley stunk. He was awful. He was horrible, but they still were trying. They were still trying to get him involved. This number is now lower than it was last week. Every projection still has him over, but it's not properly projecting for Tyler Huntley, obviously. I'm going in. I think that play is going to break this time. Patriots are giving up the 5th most receiving yards to wide receivers so far this year. They tried to go deep, which I think is a really good positive for Tyreek Hill, and they want to get him the ball. He got covered. Snead kind of locked him down a little bit, made a dumb drop, and then couldn't haul in. It was a really awful throw deep. But the whole point is like they're trying to continue doing what has made Tyreek Hill great. Hopefully, one more game, one more week into this offense, which Erickson did a show with Bogman and I. We talked, Huntley's been with the team since September 24th, I think it was the number. So like he has not been with this team for long. Hopefully this extra week, a second week of practice working with the starters, we can see some better throws. There's an optimism. There's a Pollyanna optimism I'm throwing to it. This is a vibes play. This is analytic. I mean, listen, he had the air yards, he had the ADOT targets, all of that. So that's like a 2, let's give it. Quarterback brings it down. This is 5 vibes. This is the lowest number Tyreek Hill has probably had in years, understandably, with the quarterback. So don't bet it. Don't follow it if you want. But I'm still hardcore by Tyreek Hill and under 50 yards on Tyreek Hill. If Joe was the quarterback, I probably am still playing because he can do it.
Hey, I'm still pretty good. I'm still all right.
You're like you get like good short yards, Pat. I don't know if you can get him deep,
well,
but you can get him 20.
The old man can't quite throw the ball, 50 yards. That's not happening. But yeah, I will dink and doink you to death, and I will be accurate, and I will make the right plays. Look, a little bit extra time here with the playbook for Huntley is going to be good. The Patriots stink. So I like this. One big play for Tyreek Hill, and we get this. Let's go.
Do you think that Gonzalez is going to be on Tyreek Hill? Do you have a read on that?
That's a big key. The way they moved around Tyreek Hill, I want to say not full blanket coverage, but that could put a wrinkle into this.
I don't want to burst anybody's bubble here. Christian Gonzalez is a very good player. Tyreek Hill is a great player. Give me the great elite wide receiver over the good or very good corner every single day of the week and twice this Sunday. Sorry. Like, there's a finite number of elite wide receivers. It's Hill, it's Chase, it's Justin Jefferson. We could talk about CeeDee Lamb. Those guys can't be guarded by anybody. I don't care. I don't care who it is. So, yeah, maybe slow him down here and there. I don't care. Like, Gonzalez is not enough reason for me not to like this one.
So my point with that was less about, more to your point. Yes, Tyreek Hill is an elite receiver, but what I was thinking is if Gonzalez is on him, that means it's man-to-man coverage. And it's like, Tyler Huntley, all you have to do is, hey, I'm Tyreek Hill, I'm going to beat this guy, you just throw me the ball.
Yeah.
So in essence, I think it's better if Gonzalez, because that means there's not going to be a safety over the top. It's like, no, Gonzo, you got to take on Tyreek Hill. Oh, boom, 80-yard touchdown. So that's kind of how I was trying to read the situation.
One catch, you can get this. One catch. All right, Erickson, give us another under here. Let's go back to the Bengals, because I think you were pretty harsh on the game script here, pretty harsh on the defense, which means good for Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, but again, maybe not so good for the backfield. So let's talk about Chase Brown.
Yeah, just continuing to fade the Bengals running backs in this particular matchup. Chase Brown under 8.5 rushing attempts. Last week was the most work that he's seen all season, but I think it was really about the matchup, playing the Carolina Panthers. Chase Brown had 15 carries in that game. He had 2 in the first half altogether. So unless we see a game script where the Bengals are up massively against the Baltimore Ravens, don't really see that. I know they're playing at home, but don't really envision that scenario, and they can feed Chase Brown in the second half to run out the clock. That seems like I'm not projecting that game to go this way. So if I'm wrong about the game, then this is a bet that's not going to fire. But just based on what we've seen through the first 3 weeks of the season, it's been mostly Zack Moss dominating the carries, with Chase Brown playing that complementary role. I feel like we could see more of Chase Brown in the passing game, right? Get him out for a screen pass, and that's obviously not a rushing attempt. So I'm going to take the under on 8.5 carries. Look at the Ravens against starting running backs that they have faced. Chase Brown, not even technically the starter on his own team. One running back they have faced has over 9 carries, and it was Isaiah Pacheco back in week 1.
Can't argue with that. Can't argue with that. All right, let's get to the touchdown calls here. And don't forget the score report at bettingpros.com/touchdown is available. So if you're looking for an edge in touchdown bets, and we love to bet touchdowns here, and I know I do, that's for sure. Our touchdown score report compares anytime touchdown stats to prop bet odds and projections to help identify the best anytime touchdown bets you're going to find anywhere on the internets, all the internets. So head to bettingpros.com/touchdown today to find the latest touchdown prop analysis. Get going. Download the Betting Pros app, everybody. Again, bettingpros.com/touchdown, but download the app, sync your sportsbooks for free, and help us help you become the best bettor you possibly can. All right, let's go to the touchdown calls here. Welsh, who's finding the end zone in week 5?
All right, I got a wide receiver and a running back. Wide receiver, how about picking on the Washington Commanders? It's a true and tried theory, and it plays out.
Welshismed it. It's tried and true.
Tried and
not
true.
True and tried.
Tried.
I don't know what that means.
I'm not going to score the touchdown, but Amari Cooper is. It's like plus 180. The Washington Commanders have given up.
This, dude.
They've given up 10 receiving touchdowns before you tear me down. 10 receiving touchdowns to wide receivers. Amari Cooper should have had that one last week. Watson will make it right. It's like plus 180. It's the best touchdown play of the week for any wide receiver.
I agree 100%. I've bet it myself, and I've also bet the over on Cooper. Like this is clearly the everyone's down. Let's just get back on the Amari Cooper train. All right, so Cooper's in. Yeah. Who else is getting to the goal line?
This is I think the best plus 200 play you can have for really anybody at a touchdown call. Alexander Mattison, who's been a sneaky little touchdown play this year. Pierce has said they want Mattison and he deserves more run. He has been the guy they've used in the inside the 5. They've also been throwing him the ball. So if he gets more run, boom. Also Zamir White, there's a question on him. If Zamir White were to be out, this number is going to boost up. This is going to probably go to like a 130, 140. Right now, I got it at plus 240. Alexander Mattison score against the Denver Broncos. Yes, please. Thank you. Madison, Amari Cooper. Those are my 2 touchdown calls.
All right. So there you go. Madison, Cooper in. Erickson, who else finds pay dirt in week 5?
Oh man, Antonio Pierce, such a straight shooter. You know exactly what he's going to do. But I do like the call on Madison. I just got to hope the Raiders find the end zone.
One thing we know is he hates Zamir White. Like that's like you're right. Like we read through all the garbage of what he's saying and what he's liking on Twitter and all that stuff and what he's doing with recruits at ASU. But one thing we know is he hates Zamir White. So that's what benefits.
Do you think he was just on his phone and saw the Adams post and like thought about, I want to cause some chaos and just like click the button?
He's a violent linebacker. He probably didn't think twice about it. He's like, yep.
All right, my touchdown calls. Kobe Parkinson, tight end for the Los Angeles Rams. He is plus 300 to score. He had 7 targets last week. He actually leads the NFL among tight ends in red zone targets, but he has 0 touchdowns. So he plays all the snaps, especially around the goal line. The Rams don't give the ball to Kyren Williams for a touchdown. Kyren Williams, at this point, has scored all of the touchdowns for the Rams. I think it's going to go to Kobe Parkinson, so I like the odds at 3-1 in this particular matchup against the Green Bay Packers. And then my second one, this is one I am stealing from Terrell Furman because he was right about Sterling Shepard scoring a touchdown on Thursday night, and I'm so mad that I didn't bet it. So I'm just going to follow Furman and his Giants. Jalen Hyatt, plus 600 to score a touchdown against the Seattle Seahawks, who are maybe going to be sleepwalking a little bit coming off the Monday night game, playing the Giants, no Malik Neighbors. Oh, what do you know? Jalen Hyatt, 80-yard touchdown. I think Hyatt gets those deep targets, and if he's running more routes because of the injury to Neighbors, and Wanda Robinson is also banged up, I think Hyatt could take one to the house. So give me Hyatt at 6-1 odds.
Joey, we need
Wanda's
yours.
gonna
You were
be
the
fun.
only one to hit both of your touchdown calls last week.
right.
So Mr. Touchdown, Joey, we need yours. Your only
And
hope.
I hit a 3-leg parlay of touchdowns last week personally, which was very nice, which kind of saved the day because week 4 was a little up and down. That little 3-leg parlay of the touchdowns was fantastic. It was McLaurin, Justin Fields, and Chase last week. So there you go. Let's lock it in. So I got another special for you here, a little bonus. So I got a QB special. Now you can bet these individually, or you could just put them together in a little duo. Give me Jaden Daniels plus 120 and Justin Fields plus 135. I think both guys find the end zone this week. You put those two together, you get plus 417, 4-1. It's pretty good odds right there. I love that. Now, if you're really feeling frisky, you can add one more in. My boy Dontavian Wicks, who makes big plays, sees a boatload of targets, got a great matchup against the Rams. I love this. I love Jaden Reed this week too. So I've done a version of this with the 2 quarterbacks and Reed. But the real fun one is the 2 quarterbacks and Dontavian Wicks, who's at plus 150. So if you put Wicks with Fields and Daniels, you get plus 1100. So that is a big return on investment. I'm in for it. By the way, just for fun, last week I threw $1 on the crazy Eric All and who the other guys you were in on, just to have it. Just in
we
case
had it
hit.
was Keenan Allen, Eric
Keenan
All,
Allen, Eric All, and then I had a goofy one too, just for S's
Yeah.
and G's. Unfortunately, it was more S than it was G, but that's all right. We soldier on. But Jaden Daniels plus 120, Fields plus 135. That's the QB combo of the week, and then Dontavian Wicks on his own, or you can add it in too for a little bit of fun also. But
let's do the 3 of
opportunity for
us. Let's pick. So wait, Erickson,
Oh,
you
I would
draft
take
one of
Cooper
yours.
is my favorite one of yours.
Okay, so my Cooper and then Erickson, which one of you had? Let's do the Parkinson one. I like the stat with the end zone. And then which one of yours, Joe?
Give
What's
me
your favorite?
Well, I think Wicks is. I mean, it's the
Yeah,
highest.
do the
number,
little
so let's have
some
fun.
Rams Packers correlation game. Let it go back and
Let it go
forth.
back and
Guys,
forth
when
a little
Kobe catches the last touchdown, be like, Kobe.
Garbage
touchdown.
time. Yeah,
Go.
Kobe.
All right, so there you go. So it's Cooper, Parkinson, and Wicks. That's probably at least 20-1 for those 3.
Yeah,
Something fun
probably.
like that. So let's
There
do
you
it.
go. Throw another buck on there just for
Kobe.
fun.
Get them G's.
All right, everybody. Don't forget, go check out the prop bet cheat sheet and sync your sportsbooks. Download the Betting Pros app to get all the information you need to be the best bettor you possibly can. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on for the Welsh and the Undertaker. I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Enjoy your Week 5 props.